Story 1: The Man in the Vent. I was about 10 or 11 when it happened. It was a Saturday afternoon, and my older brother had a soccer game at the local indoor sports complex. You know the kind: concrete floors, metal bleachers, the constant echo of balls hitting the walls. I didn't care much for the game, so after a while I told my mom I needed to use the bathroom. "Okay," she said, distracted, "but don't talk to strangers." I nodded and wandered off alone down the long, gray hallway. The bathroom was almost empty, just a flickering fluorescent light and that cold, echoey feeling you get in tiled rooms. I picked the last stall and shut the door. The kind of door with the broken lock, where you have to hold it shut with your hand. That's when I heard it, a soft sound like metal shifting. A faint clink, then silence. I paused. At first I thought it was just the ventilation system. Maybe the pipes, but something felt off, like the air had changed. I looked up, and that's when I saw him. In the vent above me, an old square grate near the ceiling, a face was staring down. He didn't move, didn't blink, just watched. His face was partly hidden behind the metal slats, but his eyes were clear. Wide, fixed right on me. There was no confusion in his expression, no awkwardness, just the cold certainty of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. My whole body froze. For a second I thought maybe it wasn't real. Maybe I was imagining it. But then he moved his head slightly, just enough to stay in my line of sight as I leaned back. He was following me with his eyes. My heartbeat slammed into my throat. I didn't scream, I didn't say a word. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid that if I acknowledged him, if I let him know I saw him, he'd do something worse. Instead, I stayed silent. I reached for the toilet paper with a trembling hand, stood up slowly, flushed, and walked out of the stall without looking up. I washed my hands in the sink, still pretending everything was normal, even though I could feel his eyes burning into the back of my neck. Then I walked out of the bathroom. I didn't run, I didn't cry. I just went straight back to the bleachers and sat down beside my mom. She looked at me and said, "You okay?" I nodded, "Yeah, fine." But inside I was shaking. I never told her, not that day, not that year, I don't even know why. I guess part of me thought no one would believe me, or worse, that they would, and I'd have to deal with police and questions and fear. I told myself it was nothing, that maybe it was just a worker, a weird trick of light, a shadow, but I knew better. Because for months after that day, I refused to go anywhere alone. Restrooms, hallways, even my own bedroom at night. I kept looking up at the ceiling, waiting for the moment a pair of eyes would be there again, watching silently through the dark. Years later, I mentioned it offhandedly in a conversation with my older cousin. She got really quiet, then said, "Wait, that happened at the old sports center." "Yeah," I said. Her face changed. She told me she remembered a rumor. That back in the early 2000s, a janitor was caught living in the crawlspace above the building, sleeping in the vents, watching people through cracks in the ceiling tiles. No one ever pressed charges. They just fired him quietly and changed the locks. But apparently he came back. I know what I saw. And if he was watching me, it means he was watching others too. So the next time you're in a public bathroom and you feel like you're being watched, look up. Because someone might be looking back. Story 2: Matched but watched. It began innocently enough. Another swipe, another match. His profile was unremarkable. Mid-30s, liked hiking and indie films, lived somewhere nearby. We exchanged polite messages for a few days, then decided on coffee. I told my roommate, "Hey, I matched with this guy. He seems normal." She nodded. "Just text me when you get home." That night, the cafe conversation was easy. We laughed. He listened. I felt safe. When I got home, I blocked him on the app. No reason, really. We weren't sparks, and I preferred to keep things chill. The messages begin 3 days later. My phone buzzed. "Found you." No context, no name, just those 2 words. My heart sank. I blocked the number, but 2 days later, a text from an unknown account: "Saw your new post." I panicked. I hadn't shared anything publicly, no social media, no stories. He must have found me somewhere else. Maybe he'd been keeping tabs since our date. The texts kept coming. "You went to the bakery this morning. I saw you. You have a bruise on your arm. Why didn't you reply?" Every message was unsettlingly precise. Like he was right outside, watching. The first sighting, I started locking my door, triple-checked windows. One evening, heading to the store, I spotted a figure across the street. Someone paused in the lamplight. For a second, I thought it was him, and then he dropped into shadow and disappeared. My breath locked in my chest. Paranoia or reality, phones in hand, I felt exposed. I avoided baking mornings. I stopped posting photos, but the messages continued. You're angry, not sleeping. How could he know? I hadn't said a word. I told my roommate, who insisted I go to the police. I tried to forward the texts, but they came from burner numbers, masked. Nothing traceable. They shrugged. Without threats, there's little we can do. The silent watcher. One night, I woke to the glow of my own phone. Looped on my screen, a video notification from an unknown sender. I opened it, 8 seconds long. Silence, then static. Then, me in my bedroom, standing, turning toward the window. The camera angle just inches from the glass. My phone slipped from my hand. The final message the next morning, you'd better hide. That was it, no more messages after that. But I can't leave, I can't stay. I moved out 2 weeks later, back to my parents' home near my old city. I miss independence, but safety won. The unknown threat. I never found his profile again. No name, no history, just digital traces. Was he someone I passed in the street? Someone from the date pretending to be vanish? A stranger who found my apartment details somewhere? I look at every corner of my room now, at every lit window. Someone watched me through cameras, through messages from the shadows, and I still wonder, what did he see? What did he want? Would he ever stop? Story 3: The Stranger in the Window. When I was 13, my family moved from the city to a quiet, forested town 3 hours north. My parents said we needed a fresh start. I never understood what they meant by that, only that something had gone badly wrong between them before we left. The house was big and drafty, old floorboards, cold tiles, shadows that moved longer than they should. But I loved it, especially my room upstairs with a window that looked out over the forest. It was peaceful, or at least it was at first. The first tap had started 2 weeks after we moved in. One night, as I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, I heard it tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I realized something. My window was on the second floor. No trees nearby, no awnings, no way anyone or anything should be able to reach it. I turned toward the window slowly. Nothing. Still, I got up and closed the curtains. Maybe it was just an animal. I didn't want to seem paranoid. The next morning, I told my dad. He shrugged. Old houses make weird sounds, kid. You'll get used to it. The second visit, 3 nights later, it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. I held my breath. This time it was slower, rhythmic, not random. I turned my head. The curtains were half open. And that's when I saw him. A man, pale, still, expressionless, staring at me from the other side of the glass. Eyes wide, unblinking. His face so close it nearly fogged the window. I couldn't scream. We locked eyes for what felt like minutes. Then he smiled, a slow, crooked grin that didn't reach his eyes. I bolted upright, shouting, "Mom, Mom, there's someone." My mom rushed in, flipping the light on. What happened?" There was someone at the window. She looked, curtains blowing slightly. No one there. She sat on the edge of my bed, pulled the blanket around me. "Sweetheart, it's probably a dream. You've been under stress with the move." I didn't argue, but I knew what I saw. Recording the night, I stopped sleeping well after that. I started locking my door, setting up my phone to record the night. Most mornings, nothing unusual, just silence, until the 4th night. The recording started with me tossing and turning, an hour in, faint tapping. I heard it again, and then the screen caught something. A shadow passed by the window. No face this time, no figure, just movement, the shape of a man. The next morning, I showed my mom. She squinted at the screen. "That could be anything, a moth, a curtain moving." "A moth doesn't tap, Mom. Do you want to talk to someone? A counselor?" "I want a new room." She didn't say anything. The family secret. A few days later, I overheard my parents arguing in the kitchen. "Mom, you promised this would be over, that he wouldn't follow us." "Dad, you think I planned this, that it's my fault." "Mom, you don't get it, he's watching again." I didn't know what they meant then, but I do now. The final night, it was nearly 2:30 a.m. I was lying awake, eyes wide open, no tapping, just silence, stillness, and then the curtain shifted. I sat up. My skin felt electric. There he was again. This time his hands were on the glass, face pressed hard against it. His eyes were wide but wrong, like they were painted on, like he didn't blink because he wasn't supposed to. I grabbed my flashlight and shined it at the window. Nothing, empty. The aftermath, we moved again a month later. I never got the full truth. My mom shut down every time I asked. But I remember the last thing my dad said to me in that house. We were packing boxes in silence, and he looked up at me and said, "If you ever hear tapping at your window again, don't open the curtains. Now, years later, I live in a high-rise. No trees, no fire escapes. My windows don't even open. But sometimes, especially late at night, I still wake up with that feeling that someone's watching, and every now and then,